Welcome to Wine Soundtrack Australia. Listen to the passion with which producers narrate their winery and their world.
In 30 ounces, discover their stories, personalities and passions.
Hello listeners and friends of Wine Soundtrack. My name is Priscilla Henningham and I'm here with Geoff Hardy's daughter, Bec Hardy. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you, Priscilla. How are you going today?
Very good. So, tell us, where are you located?
So we're here in McLaren Vale, which is just south of Adelaide in South Australia.
So, McLaren Vale is famous for?
Wine, very much so. In particular, red wine and probably Shiraz and Grenache is probably our best known varieties here.
You have a lot of Shiraz here around here as well?
We do a number of Shiraz wines. We have probably 4 different wines that we do, and then we do a number of other varieties as well.
Sounds good. So how many hectares of land do you have here back?
We actually only have 2 hectares that we own ourselves, and we have a number of growers that we buy from as well.
So how many bottles do you produce?
We produce about 500,000 bottles under our Pertaringa and Bec Hardy labels.
Sounds good. So do you sell more here in Australia, domestic market, or do you have a big export market?
We do a bit of both. We've had, since buying the Pertaringa brand the middle of last year from my parents, we've had a real focus on the domestic market. We've spent quite a bit of money here at the cellar door and just trying to get people here, but we also sell to a number of different countries, export countries as well.
So which countries you talk about?
So we do Taiwan, Thailand, Indonesia, Canada, China, Luxembourg, so a few, just to name a few.
That's good. When did you start actually? We know your story. Tell us a little bit about your story, about your industry, your passion about wines, and how everything started.
I actually didn't know what I wanted to do when I was at school, and filled out a job questionnaire, and it came back with what you'd be good at, and it came back with landscape gardener. And as our family, you've already mentioned my father, Geoff Hardy, owned vineyards, I thought, well, it's a good opportunity to get involved in the wine industry. I always loved being outside, growing things, had a vegetable patch when I was growing up, and so I thought, well, viticulture makes a lot of sense, so I went straight from school and studied viticulture at Adelaide University, and then after that realised I knew very little about international wine. So not long after finishing, I then moved over to the UK and studied the WSET, intermediate, advanced and diploma, so level 2, 3, 4 over there. Came back here, worked for Dr. Andrew Perry, who was the first doctor of viticulture in Australia, for a while before then returning to the family business and working here at Pertaringa.
Good. How was your experience in London? Tell us.
It was really interesting because it's a great place to study about wine, because there's more of wine being produced in the UK now, but back then there was very little, and so it's a very unbiased place to actually study wine, and you can get wine from all over the world. It's easy to get Lebanese, American, Chilean, Argentinian wines, which here in Australia you don't tend to see very often. So it's a good place to learn about international wine styles.
And I guess you have a great palate then.
It's one of those things where unless you get to practice it often, you do sort of lose that knowledge, and that's something that I have probably suffered a bit of knowledge fade since moving back here, because we are quite parochial here in Australia and we do drink a lot of Australian wines. So a lot of that I learnt in the WSET, it's probably not something that I get to use that knowledge very often these days, and now it's more from a production point of view, so looking at Australian wines and styles.
And then how we start your own business, your own winery here in McLaren Vale?
How did I start that? So after working for my family, so for mum and dad for the last 12 years, my husband and I decided it would be great to do something ourselves. So in 2015, we first started Bec Hardy Wines, started the business itself, because we were planning on buying our own vineyard, and then in 2016 we bought a property in Blewett Springs, which is where we live today. It's called Tipsy Hill, and we have a beautiful Cabernet vineyard there that our 2017s just recently received 99 points from James Halliday. It's a really good spot for wine there in Blewett Springs, and especially Cabernet, and Grenache is another variety that the region's, that little sub-region of McLaren Vale is known for. So we did that in 2016 and continued working for my parents, and then last year we were given the opportunity to purchase the Pertaringa brand from Mum and Dad last year, which was fantastic. They're looking at stepping back a little bit. They have their K1 brand up in the Adelaide Hills, and they're wanting to focus more on K1, and Richard and I, my husband, we're raring to go and keen to get more involved in the Pertaringa brand, so we were lucky enough to acquire that from Mum and Dad middle of last year.
Sounds good. So tell us, Pertaringa means?
So Pertaringa is a local Indigenous language, the Kaurna people that are from this area of Adelaide, and it means belonging to the hills, because where we are in McLaren Vale is just before it goes up to the Adelaide Hills, so it's one of the higher parts of McLaren Vale, so belonging to the hills.
So have such a famous family, Hardy family, is pretty much one of the most famous in the wine industry here in Australia. Tell us, do you have any relevant memory when you were a child with wines that you'd like to share with us?
Oh, with wines in particular, it's not something I actually grew up drinking much wine when I was very young. Unlike our daughter Matilda, we have a 5-year-old, and we will give her a tiny taste on every now and then of wines. But certainly I have memories of when Hardy's was still owned by the family, and going to Ranella, which was the headquarters at that stage. When I was a child, they used to have Christmas parties, so I do remember going there as a child, and we're quite a large family, the Hardy family. Just about everyone has 4 kids up until us, and so it was great to actually catch up with other members of the Hardy family, but they were always a lot of fun, and that's certainly something I remember from when I was very, very much younger.
Do you still remember when was your first time you taste or drink a wine, and how old are you?
No, I don't actually remember the first time I did taste a wine. I remember I probably started getting into wine more so when I was probably 17 or 18, just before I did start studying wine or viticulture. I obviously studied the viticulture, which is the grape growing side, because that's what interests me. And because part of viticulture is you're producing grapes for wine, so part of the course is sensory studies, which is actually the tasting of it. And so that really is when I began to really enjoy a lot of different wine styles. Before that, there was a few wines I'd have occasionally and drink, but that really broadened what I like to drink as well. So that was really interesting.
So, do you believe in perfect variety? You have so much knowledge about international wines as well, and there's so much knowledge about Australian wines. So do you believe in any perfect variety, Bec?
I don't think there can be a perfect variety, because there's just so many different factors that can influence things, not only from what you feel like drinking at that time, depending on how you're feeling, what you're eating, that sort of thing, but also each variety, because it's an agricultural product, every year is different. So you have different weather every year, and that will impact how the grapes turn out. And then in the winery as well, there's so many different influences that you can have on the grapes as well. Personally, I tend to drink more whites and sparklings, and then lighter reds as well. I love Pinot Noir and some alternate varieties as well.
And you have some Pinot Noir and sparkling in your range of wines, right?
We do, yes. We have our premium sparkling, which is a Pinot Noir Chardonnay, and we also have 2 products from Pinot Noir. We have our Rosé, which is a Pinot Noir Rosé, and then we also have our Lakeside Pinot, which is an entry level, quite a light style Pinot. So it's nice to have it slightly chilled on a warm day.
Definitely. The more in the summers in Australia can be very nice and warm, so something lighter would be perfect way to start the day. So, do you like social media?
Do I like social media? That's a tricky one. I wish I was better at it, and I wish I actually posted more. But social media, I certainly think it has its place these days in the world. And yes, I just wish I was better at actually posting more often.
Back to if you have to choose one, Instagram, Facebook, which one you choose, or Twitter? Have you anything in particular you like more?
Instagram is what I do have a Facebook account, and I don't check it anywhere near as much as I should. But Instagram, I do enjoy Instagram, and I think it's the visual thing. A lot of people love looking at things, and you can just scroll through easily and just look at the pictures. So Instagram would definitely be my choice. I'm not even in LinkedIn, so that's definitely not the case.
So, do you have a cellar?
We unfortunately don't have a physical cellar at home, but we do have wine stored here, actually, in the temperature-controlled shed here. So we've got about 2 pallets worth of wine that we've been collecting, my husband and I. I don't know when we'll ever get a chance to drink through it all. But yes, we do have quite a few wines, and quite a few from my parents from K1 when we were working there, as well as some old Pertaringa wines as well, and then other wines that we've picked up from our travels around Australia as well.
Which one is the most expensive bottle? Do you remember? Do you know? Can you tell us?
Well, that's in the cellar at the moment. I can't think what reds there would be, but the most expensive wine we've had, well, it was funny. Richard actually won a raffle about 3-4 weeks ago for a bottle of Grange. So that was a random one. So that's one of the most expensive ones that we've actually owned and drank. We drank it that night. The deal was if he won it, he said, if I win it, I'll open it for the table. And then he ended up winning it. So we opened it then and there, and everyone in the room, we suddenly had a lot of friends. Which was, but we've been lucky enough to have quite a few very expensive wines, especially in Europe. Also when we used to travel to China as well. But the most expensive one we've actually purchased, I reckon, was probably Cristal. When the night Richard proposed to me, he bought a bottle of Cristal, and we had that sitting outside on the balcony in the middle of winter in Glenelg. So that's probably, yes, one of the most memorable expensive wines.
That's actually a good story as well. So just imagine you have a VIP person in overseas or maybe here in Australia, and a drink a Bec Hardy wines on the table, when some magazine, very famous magazine, going there, take a picture of that famous person. If you think about the famous person you'd like to drink Bec Hardy wines, so which one you choose?
This is probably an unusual one, and it's more because Richard and I love cooking, and we love food, and we also love his restaurant. It's probably Rick Stein, because we love watching his programs on TV. Half our cookbooks are Rick Stein ones, and we love Matilda, our daughter, actually was conceived in Bannisters in Mollymook, so we have a close connection to Rick Stein. So he would definitely be up there with. We'd love to, have him tasting our wines.
So you make your whites, reds, make fortifieds, make it, what type of wine you make it?
We don't do any fortifieds at the moment, so we have sparkling, we have white, red and rosé as well. So we've got quite a few different wines. Only have one sweet one that I can think of at the moment, which is the Moscato, but we have quite a range of different wines between the Lakeside, the Bec Hardy and the Pertaringa brand, so under those 3 labels.
Good. So each vintage is a different story back. Tell us.
It is. It's amazing what Mother Nature throws at you each year, and it's just closely watching the weather, and it's like that every vintage. This has been really good vintage so far. We had a rain a few weeks ago, which a few people were a bit concerned about, but luckily enough it was too early to really affect the reds. Any berry splitting where the grapes suddenly suck up the vines suck up the water, and if there's any berry split, it was long enough before vintage that they'll shrivel and drop off, so they weren't an issue. The whites, we were a little bit concerned about the Sauv Blanc that was here in McLaren Vale, because we were planning, the rain was on the Thursday night, and we were planning on, Thursday night, we were planning on actually picking the following day or the Monday. So we ended up picking just before the rain because we were a bit concerned, and it ended up being quite a lot of rain. So I'm glad we picked that when we did. But other than that, it's just been, as today is just very mild. It's been fairly dry. So it's been really nice sort of Indian summer that just allows those grapes to continue to ripen. And the good thing about at the moment is we're getting really cool nights, and by having those cool nights, the grapes retain their acidity, which is what you want to produce a good wine. You don't want to have to add acidity if you don't need to. So it's nice that we've had those really cool evenings.
So 2021 is promising.
It's looking very good, yes. Very happy with how it's looking so far.
So, when you were little, the age of your daughter, what do you want it to be when you grow up?
I'd never really thought about what I wanted to do. I had and it wasn't until I filled out that questionnaire at school that I really had even thought about what I wanted to do. It's just, funny. I tend to live my life as, day by day. I don't tend to plan for the future, whereas Matilda, she's our daughter, she's very much looking to the next thing, looking to the future, what can I do, whereas I just tend to be one day at a time, and so I had never really thought about growing up what I wanted to do. I would just filled out the questionnaire, put in what I enjoyed doing, and then I thought, yes, viticulture. That would make sense. Our family's only been doing it for 170 years.
Your daughter, do you think she will be following your path?
Well, at this stage, she wants to be a gymnastics instructor. She doesn't actually do gymnastics, but that's what she wants to do. But things might change. She does like serving people in Celador, so yeah.
She enjoy to be here and then talk with people.
Absolutely. She's grown up here, so from the moment she was born, I was bringing her here. We had the jolly jumper hanging off the door frame, and she'd be jumping up and down, and then once she was old enough to walk, I'd be serving people in Celador, and she'd be tottering around, and then she'd pull up a chair and stand at the bar and serve people and tell them about the wines. And so she loves being here. She'll take out the tasting sheets to people and take out bottles of water, and then the Tipsy Hill, which I mentioned earlier, that wine, she'd actually point out, see, this is where I live and this is my bedroom, because there's a picture of our house on the front. So she loves it.
So cute. Nice story. Tell a little bit about you, Bec. We wanted to know about what you do when you are not work. I know Mom is another work. He's probably very busy, but do you have any sports or anything you like to do?
I would have, for a while before I had Matilda, I was actually doing some dancing, some ballroom dancing and some Latin dancing, and Matilda now has a real interest in dancing, so I take her to ballet twice a week and go to acro. But gardening is my big thing. So as mentioned earlier, growing up I always loved gardening, and then where we're living at the moment at Tipsy Hill, we have a 2.5 acre garden, and we're actually going to be opening to the public, not this weekend but the following weekend, the 20th and 21st of March, as part of Open Gardens South Australia. So I've sort of taught myself how to do topiary balls, and I'm out there gardening. So any spare moment I get, it tends to be in the garden.
That's good. You have a nice garden in your home, probably?
Yes, it is. We're very lucky. It was an already established, beautiful garden when we purchased Tipsy Hill back in 2016, and so we've just maintained it as well as we can. I have a real passion about the environment as well and sustainability, so we have been reducing the amount of water we use in the garden because it was using a lot of water before, and just trying to plant more native plants as well, and grouping plants with their water requirements, so those that need more water in areas together, so that area you water more, and then other areas you don't need to water as much as previously when it was all mixed up. So we've been doing that. Another interest of mine, I'm on the board of Nature Foundation Foundation, which is the third largest conservation land owner in Australia, private landowner in Australia. So Nature Foundation's been going for the last 40 years, so it's 40th anniversary this year, and we're going to be releasing a wine in the next few weeks, which is going to be raising money for Nature Foundation as well.
That's good, Bec. So if you're viniculture and you like this sustainable practice, probably you use a lot of sustainable practice in your vineyards as well?
We do tend to, as much as possible. We're not certified or organic or anything like that, because we do want the flexibility for if there is a season that's terrible weather, we do have the option of spraying to protect the crop if we need to. But as much as possible, like this winter, we're going to be putting sheep in the vineyard, so that'll help. Instead of having to mow the lawn, it'll help to mow the lawn for us and put a bit of nutrients back into the soil as well. So we're going to be doing that, and we do a lot of monitoring of the vineyard. It's not just spraying, on a regular basis. It's only spraying when required.
Good. Changing a little bit the subject. Talking about wine and food. People talking all the time about white wine with fish or red wine with meat. Do you really follow that rules? What do you really think about what we eating and drinking that night? Tell us, what do you really do at home?
Well, it's tricky when there is two of you. Often one of you, you want to be drinking, one of you might want to be drinking red and one of you might want to be drinking white, and so what should we cook because of it? So we don't tend to stick to it, and as I mentioned earlier, I tend to drink more white sparklings and lighter reds, which is, you don't tend to have as much with a really big meaty dish, because you sort of lose that. But in saying that, we do actually eat a lot of seafood at home, so it actually works quite well. But yes, it's I don't think you need to stick by the rules, and unless you're putting them both in your mouth at the same time or something. Have a bit of water in between, a mouthful of your food, and then your white will taste fine. So you also want to enjoy what you're drinking as well. If you really don't like white and you're having seafood, you shouldn't be made to drink white.
That's so true. Question: how many glasses of bottle of wine needed to get you drunk back? Tell us.
It depends on the day and what I'm drinking. I do like my bubbles, but it turns to after 3 or 4 glasses. It really depends on the day, how much I've had to eat and that sort of thing. But it depends.
So red wine, you're more resistant?
I probably am, yes, and probably because I tend to drink red wine more slowly as well, which probably helps.
So what do you do for recover after a very bad hangover?
Oh, well, having kids, you don't tend to get too crazy because you're going to be up at 6:30 in the morning. So I'm a bit more... Yes, I tend to be a bit more careful these days than I did a few years ago, so it's not something I need to worry about quite so much. But Alka-Seltzer, if you do need it, that's often a good one to take on.
Do you have any sport back? Do you do anything in particular, running or anything you like it?
No, I don't do any sport anymore. Growing up, I used to do so much sport. I used to play tennis and netball and volleyball, all sorts, athletics. And then later on, when I was in my 20s, I did dancing. But these days, because I'm between work and ferrying Matilda around from here and there, and then we're often working 7 days at the moment as well, because we work cellar door on weekends unless we have events on, which we're working at as well. For example, we have a wine club event this weekend, and then we've got the open gardens the following weekend, and then got a wedding at Tipsy Hill the weekend after that. So it's hard to fit in sport as well.
No time is spare for back. Oh my God. So, complete the sentence. A day without wine is like
a date without wine.
A table without wine.
Oh, right. Sorry. Pretty much the same as a date. That's a very good one. I can't think what it would be. I suppose it's like going out naked, really, isn't it?
Talk about the date. Do you still remember your first date? Did you have wine that day?
Oh, absolutely. I don't remember my first date, but one of the more memorable dates was with my now husband, Richard, and he did the right thing. So he was given the wine list at the restaurant, and he just turned around and gave it straight to me. So that was the right thing to do. So I got to choose the wine.
Did you choose Australian wine?
I think I probably would have, because most menus, wine menus here are predominantly Australian, and so from memory I would have, and no, it was an Italian restaurant in Glenelg, and yes, it would have been an Australian wine.
Do you have any good like a ritual for when the harvest is about to start? Do you have anything you really do every year before you start the harvest? Or if you have like people from overseas, you just put everyone together to dinner or anything specific?
Because we only own our small 2-hectare vineyard, we don't need to employ anyone directly to pick. We have a contractor that comes and does the harvest for us. So it's actually machine harvested with a Pelonk, over-the-road Pelonk harvester, which is the most amazing piece of kit. These harvesters, they look, when you look inside of them, because often they pick at night, and so as they go past us, it looks like a spaceship inside. They've got screens and buttons, and so they must have video cameras all the way around, so they can see the grapes going over, being sorted. They can see exactly how far away they are from the posts as they're going round the harvester. It's like this transformer, like this massive going through the vineyard. So that's I always find that really interesting. I always make sure I'm up bright and early when they're picking, because I just find that fascinating as they're harvesting. But other than that, I don't get really that involved in other people's vineyards. We go and look at the other people's vineyards and say, right, this is when we've booked the fruit in to be so, and then they organise the harvest of it themselves.
Great. So, do you have any favourite singer or group? Singer.
Singer. We actually listen to a lot of classical.
Classical?
Yes, I know. So in the car, anyone would think I'm in my 60s. I'm not. But yes, we actually listen to a lot of classical in the car, and I think it's because of Matilda doing ballet. I have a real love of the ballet music, and so probably Tchaikovsky, and some of the music from Swan Lake or The Nutcracker or those sorts of songs. So they're the ones that's a bit different probably from most people, but that's what we tend to listen to.
Tell us, when you live in London, probably you visit a lot of wine regions around there. Do you still have another wine region you'd like to explore? I know the COVID and stuff is not the best moment to talk about travels, but we can still have a list.
Yes, yeah. I didn't actually get to see as many wine regions as I would have liked to when I was living in London. Probably France was the one I spent the most time in, with Burgundy, Bordeaux, Champagne. Haven't been to the Loire, and I would love to go there. And then other regions, I did a short visit to Portugal, and that was really interesting. So that would probably be another region I'd love to go back to and have a better look at as well, and a few regions in Spain as well.
Good. Do you know, in your opinion, what the people will be drinking in the future?
People are tending towards lighter wines, from what we can see. People are probably a little bit more conscious of how much alcohol is in wine, especially with drink driving and that sort of thing. So people are tending to look for lighter alcohol wines. So when I say that, I'm talking about 13.5 as opposed to 15 and a half. Some of the ones here in McLaren Vale can even be higher than that. So just that little bit lower for reds, and then whites are often 12 or so % anyway. And a lot of people are looking for things that are a bit different as well these days. We've started doing Pinot Gris, which we hadn't been doing previously. That's one I really enjoy drinking. So just, looking for something that's a bit different as well.
Like what?
Some of the, like Dad's doing quite a few alternate varieties, and the lighter ones, he did a Dolcetto a few years ago, which was really nice and light. And then I'm trying to think of some of the other lighter ones that I've had more recently, and I can't think of them off the top of my head at the moment. Sorry.
That's so good. Are you ready for...
Actually, sorry, Gamay is another one. I really enjoy Gamay. So, like the Sorenberg Gamay is one that I really like. So that's one that, I like to drink.
Yeah. That's such delicious as well. So I have I'd like to ask you, let's play a game.
Okay.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
So the game is, I sing the song, and then you tell me the grape, and then why you matching that grape variety with the song.
Okay, I'm glad it's you singing, not me.
I'm a terrible singer, by the way. So my first song, it's called It's My Life, no doubt. The song is It's My Life, don't you forget. Do you know that song?
I do know that one, yes. I'm thinking something light, and I'm thinking a Riesling.
Riesling, good answer. And if it's something like more serious, like for example Lady Gaga, so they have a new song called Shallow. So tell me something, girl. And then why you matching that song with that grape variety?
Oh, something a bit more serious. Well, you probably look at a red then. Probably a Cab Sav. That tends to be the variety that the serious wine drinkers like to do, the Cab Sav.
Like the answer. And then if you're going to something like more party-wise, it's raining man, whoo, hallelujah.
Definitely Bubbles. Bubbles is a definite party wine, and that is, yes, Raining Men. Yep.
Good. And if you're going to YouTube, It's a Beautiful Day. It's a beautiful day.
I reckon that would be like a lighter, like a light Pinot, a red, but yeah, one that can be drunk on a beautiful day. Yeah, I reckon Pinot Noir.
Good. And we need now one sexy variety.
A sexy variety?
Yeah, I'm going to suggest the sexy. I am a sexy and I know it. Bum, 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 bum.
Right.
So which sexy variety are we going to matching?
Well, that would probably be an alternate. They're the sexy ones at the moment. So we will do a Montepulciano.
Oh, wow, yes. I agree. Montepulciano, even the name is so sexy.
It is, absolutely. You can't but look sexy saying that variety.
Did you like your interview? Did you like your interview?
Oh, yes, it was a lot of fun, actually. And I'm just glad, as I said, that it was you singing, not me.
Give a vote from 1 to 10.
That is a definite 10. It's the most fun interview I've done. I've been able to relax and had a bit of fun, absolutely.
That's good. Bec, did you like it just to remind us how to reach your cellar door and your website address, please?
Yep, absolutely. bechardy.com.au.
And how you can get here? Can you tell us the address for McLaren Vale, how you can get in the cellar door?
Yep, so we are at 327 Hunt Road in McLaren Vale. So we're just off McMurtry Road, which is one of the better known roads here in McLaren Vale.
Good. Thank you very much, Bec, for your interview, and good luck with your 2021 vintage. It seems like it'll be a beautiful vintage.
It is looking good. Thanks so much, Priscilla.
Thanks for listening to a new episode of Wine Soundtrack Australia. For details and updates, visit our website, winesoundtrack.com.